the Your Healthy Mind Summit. I'm your host, Dr. Kirsten DeWitt, and with me now is Dr. Nikita Patel, ready to teach us all about decoding our emotions. Dr. Nikita is a naturopathic doctor and mind-body heart healer. She loves working with both men and women who are ready to energetically level up their health. She treats not just the physical, but the mental, emotional, and spiritual as well. Because she realized early on in her career that simply treating the physical symptoms does you a massive disservice. And whether you know it or not, it keeps you on that unwell hamster wheel. And so I'm so excited to be sitting here with Dr. Nikita to learn all about decoding our emotions, because I think this is such an important topic to better understand ourselves, to better understand what we're actually going through, and so that we can learn from what we're feeling, right? So thank you so much, Dr. Nikita, for taking the time to teach us all about this topic.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Kirsten, for that wonderful introduction. And I am so excited to talk about emotions. There was a time in my life, like 10 years ago, where I was just feeling emotionally numb and toxic. And I felt like if I said something emotionally or if I asked for something, I would either hurt someone or not feel safe, like be judged for it. And so I kept it all in and I used my intelligence to survive in this world, like would try to figure things out in my mind
Mm-hmm.
to navigate around these emotions. And every time something happened emotionally, it was so easy. Like I was such a pro at suppressing it or running away from it. Like I was just so good at it. And that caught up to me when I was 20 years old. Like my body just could not sustain that way of living anymore. It broke down. My immune system broke down. So I wanted to talk about emotions and what they mean, because we're talking about decoding the emotions, just to give you a little understanding of what each emotion sort of mean, and then give you these 3 steps to decoding your emotions that you can get started on yourself. So back when I was 20 years old, I was like, I don't know what anger means. I don't even know if I feel sad or guilt or shame. Like I had no clue what I was feeling. And I wanted to know my emotions. And then since then, I've been really paying attention and finding ways and finding people to learn from about emotions. And I feel so good about knowing emotions and picking them apart and understanding what they really mean. So first, anger. Like, anger is not a pretty emotion. It is just, it's powerful. Anger helps us, it gives us power to move on, to set a boundary, to understand that there's something going on here that is not okay with my soul and that I deserve better. Either I am saying yes to something or someone is doing something that is just not in alignment with my soul and I deserve better. And that's what the anger energy is. It becomes toxic when we suppress it and try to find the solution through our mind and don't really do the deep inner healing work. When we don't really listen to what it really means, it becomes toxic. So anger isn't bad. It just, when it's not addressed, it becomes toxic. But when it is, when we really listen to it, it will tell us what to do to help us feel even better being who we are and guide us to even a better life. Anger can show up as frustration, resistance, impatience, irritation, stubbornness, resentment, rage. Um, for now, those are the words that I can think of, but there are also other ways it can show up. So it can show up in a pretty sneaky way. So there are times when I ask my patients like, "Oh, think I was like, are you feeling angry? They're like, no, I'm not feeling angry. Their tone is like, there's anger. They're like, I just feel stubborn, you know? So it's all, there's anger underlying all of that. And the second emotion is sadness. Sadness is just pain. It hurts. There's grief, brokenness, and sadness. All there is to sadness is this giving it space and not making it wrong, and just usually it's crying, and that's how we express sadness, and just expressing whatever that's making us sad. Like, I feel sad, you know, just starting, I feel sad. And we want to let it move through us to be totally expressed. Anger and sadness, we want it to be expressed, um, not extinguish, expressed. Like, really talk it out, express it, because there are deeper messages to it. With sadness, it's usually anger and sadness usually go together. So there's, once anger gets suppressed, there's sadness. So the messages will be similar with the sadness and anger. Like, there's something that I deserve better, but it's also okay to feel what I feel. It's just part of my growing process, growth. Deep breath is great to bring us to the present moment. The next emotion is numbness. Like, for so long, I didn't realize that numbness was an emotion. I thought it
Is
was,
this like apathy then? Numbness?
yeah,
Okay.
apathy. Yeah, you're right, apathy. Like, I didn't even realize that it was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And just recently, I'm like, oh, wait, if I feel numbness, before I was like, if I feel numbness, I need to find ways to get rid of this numbness, like find this connection. And I would mostly look towards sadness or guilt to feel connected, which a lot of people in depression will like cut their um, arms, or like self-harm practices, the pain that's done to really feel this deeper connection to ourselves, because there is a lot of apathy, a lot of numbness when
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of, when there is suppression of anger and sadness, which is part of our truth. So instead of trying to like find ways to connect, which is usually more toxic, I've learned to just let myself feel the numbness, feel the apathy, and eventually it moves through. There's nothing more to do but then just to feel, like surrender to it. Okay, this is what I feel, which is part of one of the steps that I'll talk about going forward. So that's numbness. It can show up as loneliness, disconnected, emptiness, feeling abandoned, self rejection or rejection, a sense of rejection.
What is the common, you mentioned, because you mentioned with anger, it's almost like you're telling yourself that you deserve something better. Is there like a message that comes along with apathy or numbness?
So it's not a direct message that I have yet understanding of from the soul. With numbness, it means there is, I guess the message would be that there is a disconnection from our truth. And with numbness, there's not really an outward expression. It's more of acceptance. And that's what transmutes this numbness. That's what like makes it flow. So we can experience our connection. So what follows numbness is our connection. But when we try to fix it, it doesn't move.
Right. So it sounds like there's okay, so it's almost like there's a part of you that you're not accepting, and so it's causing this disconnection.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm still learning more about the deeper meanings from the soul level about emotions too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just even if we don't know, like you don't have to know everything,
Mm-hmm.
just accept what's coming up, and it will flow. The only thing that's going to stay is your truth. That's it. Like, truth is going to stay, everything else will flow through or transmute into joy and love. We don't need to know or define all our emotions right away or all the time. It's just helpful to feel this validation.
Yeah, and to understand yourself, you know, to
And
show,
to be able to communicate.
yeah, and to be, you know, show that like inner compassion, right? Like, okay, this is where I'm at. Okay. So we have anger, sadness, numbness.
All right. So then the next one is fear. Oh my God, I'm so scared. I'm so scared of being hurt. I'm scared. What's the other person gonna say? I'm so scared of my identity being lost. Like, it's fear. Every time we even feel the fear, these fearful thoughts are gonna come up. Like, that's when we know that there's fear coming up. So it shows up as anxiety, panic, terror, judgment, and that's when we buy into this fear. This fear is our they're lies. From the way I see it, they're lies. Like, they're not true danger. They're things that has happened in the past and we felt hurt by it or unsafe by it, and now we're projecting into the future. So the way to heal fear is to go back to the time when we did feel scared, when something did happen that was scary, and heal at that level, and this fear will resolve itself. But we get stuck in fear when we believe the fear. We're like, okay, no, I can't do this because this is going to happen, and I'm so scared of that happening, which was true in the past, but no one knows the future, right? So that's fear. Every time we feel fear, it's going to feel scary. Like, so it's just the emotion of fear. That's just what fear feels like. So the trick is to breathe through it. Just breathe through it and notice that, oh yeah, I am scared. Like, oh, duh, I am scared. And it will move through. That's it. Shame. Shame is extremely heavy emotion to feel. And I liked what Dr. Sarah said about shame. It means inherently we believe that we are bad. So shame can show up as embarrassment, humiliation, feeling ashamed, like, oh, I am wrong. I did something wrong. There's something wrong about me. And it just it it it's such a heavy emotion. It keeps us from living our life fully. It keeps us from shining bright. And it's at the bottom of our inability to express our sadness, express our anger, express all of our emotions. Like, there's a shame around it when we're not able to express it. At least that was my experience. There was a lot of shame around it. That's what I learned from my parents, from my society. Like, oh, if you're, if you're expressing these emotions, there's something wrong with you. Like, you're too sensitive, you're too emotional, you're not smart enough. So then I had believed in the past, like, oh, then that must mean something is wrong with me, that because I'm feeling all these emotions, so I better suppress it and try to get rid of it. So shame's pretty heavy. To heal shame is to love, is really to connect with this inner child and love this inner child and let this inner child know that, of course, you feel this way. This is right. And that releases shame. Two more emotions that I want to talk about. There's a lot more, but want to keep it, don't want to overwhelm right now anyone, which is what guilt feels like. Guilt is like, I did something wrong, which is shame, and guilt is like, I need to punish myself. So it's usually anger turned inwards, like, oh, I need to punish myself. I need to punish myself so much that no one else can punish me.
Mm.
So guilt's like, I did something wrong. I got to beat myself up mentally and emotionally. Feeling bad about oneself, like that's guilt. And guilt also goes back to healing the inner child, like going back to that place, to that time of our age when we first felt guilt and learn that it's again with shame, like of course you feel this way, there's we're very powerful beings, and teach this little one that there's no need to punish yourself anymore. There's love. There's love. Like, I love you. Just love the heck out of you, basically.
I
And
remember you mentioning that you're you'll be able to say it better than me, but like if you're coming from a place of love, then it's difficult to do something that would make you feel guilty. Is that correct?
yeah. So what I have observed and what I have experienced also is that every time we make a decision out of guilt, which many of us do, we're like, oh, I don't want to hurt this person. I don't want to say this that could hurt that person. Let me adjust myself to be
Mm.
nice and friendly. We're suppressing our truth, but what we're doing is, because we're acting out of guilt, the other person is going to receive the guilt, not the friendliness. And what's going to come back is resentment. Then we're going to be like, oh my God, I'm giving so much, but this person never appreciates me.
Mm.
Right? So,
You're just doing it from a place of guilt versus a place of like true
love,
love.
truth, which
Right.
is truth is like, I'm doing this because it feels right to me
Right.
and I enjoy it. And it
Versus
makes
I
me
feel like
feel
I should
big.
do this. I should do this. This is what I should do. I don't want to hurt them.
Yeah. Yeah. Versus love is like, this is what I want to do and it feels amazing. And when the other person receives it, they feel good. They feel so good. They feel this warm connection.
I love that. Okay, because there's this idea of intention that I think you mentioned, like how sneaky emotions can be, and I think intention can have a similar thing because often we'll feel like we're having a good intention for something. We say we're doing this out of good intention, but intentions can be sneaky as well, right? So it could be
Mhm.
coming from a
Mhm.
place of guilt, and we feel like because of that, it's a good intention, but then we recognize, if we're being honest with ourselves, we can see that it's actually coming from guilt or anger, that passive aggression that you mentioned.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I'm glad that you brought that piece up because intention can be very sneaky too, right? Like, oh, I'm, doing this with good intentions, but it's not the same as it coming from like you said, that inner truth, that inner love. Yeah.
Yeah, and intention, i- it's also learned belief. Like, hey, it's better to be friendly than to be honest about what I want. It's better to meet others' needs more than my needs to feel safe. So we feel like, oh, we're putting someone else before us, and we feel that is good thing to do, or or it feels safe to do.
Okay, that just makes me think of one more thing of this, like when you actually can connect with that inner love, like you start to realize that what's good for you is also good for everyone, right? Because we're all connected. And so I think that is something like that I've been kind of realizing too, that it's like it can't be selfish because if it's good for you, it's going to be good for everyone too, right? If it's coming from that deeper place.
Yeah, right. Love is good for me. Love is good for you too.
Yeah, yeah. But I think so many people, like you said, they feel selfish or, for doing these things. But if it's really coming from that deeper place, then then it's going to be good for them as well.
Oh, yeah. And, there are going to be times when people are not ready to receive love and honesty, and that's okay because we all have, it's a choice for all of us. But it's has nothing to do with what I'm feeling, my truth. I get to express what I feel, what I want, and the other person has their free will to take in what they want.
Mm.
And if they want to receive my truth and bond with me from that level, then awesome. But if they don't, then there's no room for anything but truth in my life.
Mm. That's a good phrase. We'll have to remember that. There's no room for anything but truth in my life.
I love that.
Okay, so I'm gonna write that down while you go through
All right.
unless there's anything
Okay.
else with guilt.
The last one is jealousy. That's something I'm actually learning right now. It's jealousy that shows up. It shows up as envy or seeing someone do something, and I'm like, whoa, I wanted to do that, but this person is doing that. Now I can't do it. And then I feel jealous. So I'm learning jealousy is really what the communication behind jealousy is not like is basically I'm being communicated through my soul that I'm not receiving my inner truth. And if I am receiving my inner truth, then I'm not following through with it.
Hmm.
So when I see someone else follow through with their truth,
Hmm.
I feel jealous. I'm like, oh, I couldn't do that, but you're able to do that,
Or I could do that. I could do that.
Yeah, I could have done that, but I didn't do it. The truth is I didn't do it.
Yep.
So that's jealousy. And really when that happens, you just let the jealousy move through, like, okay, yeah, I feel jealous. So then I go a step deeper. I'm like, okay, what is my truth that I'm not listening to and I'm not following through with it? And then when it becomes clear, I take action on it, even if I feel scared to show up, even if I'm scared of being judged. So usually there is this fear of judgment that that always keeps us from shining bright, expressing our truth. Yeah. And in jealousy, we're operating from this place where we're looking outside of us for validation instead of connecting with our inner being and validating what we feel in our heart. We're looking outside of us to see, okay, well, I see that this has been done, so I can do that because I see that it's been accepted by the community.
Mm.
Right? So we're looking outside for validation instead of, hey, this has never been done. I have this crazy idea. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know how people are going to react. And I'm so freaking scared of being ostracized for thinking this way or for putting it out there. And that is what keeps us from shining our truth. But when we are able to get through it and just do things anyway with courage, there's no room for jealousy.
Mm.
That's why I hear a lot of people saying, people in power are not jealous of each other. Right. They help each other out.
Yeah, well, because they're coming from their own, they already know, like they have this direction and they're going with I think that's a big realization for a lot of people who, especially those who are wanting to, kind of raise up, right? Like kind of move up in the world, I guess, or however you want to say
Be a leader, right? Be a leader.
Right. But, being your own, like coming from your own instead of trying to just like copy or, it's like if you're coming from your own, again, all of this is coming back to like that inner truth. Yeah.
Authenticity.
Yeah. Yep. And I think you're going to talk more about that, but it just seems like, everything kind of comes back to that place. And if you're making those decisions from there, it's going to be your own unique view of it, right? And yeah, I love that. That's such a huge there won't be a reason to be jealous, because you won't be worried about like what other people are doing. When you're focused on like this inner drive, this inner thing that's coming from you, it won't matter what other people are doing.
And saying,
Yeah,
yeah.
I love that. That's a
Yeah,
big.
I have yet to completely be in that place.
Yeah,
But I'm
I think we're all right, but this is part of why we're going through this, because it's, these are all emotions that come up for us. And once we start to realize like, oh, I must not be, either maybe they're doing something that I would like to be doing, or they're showing up in a way that I want to get to that place. Whatever it is, it's like giving us, by you going through these, it's giving us a deeper understanding of what we're feeling, so that we can then bring ourselves back.
yes. Yeah. I I've that is essentially what decoding emotions is, like really understanding what how our soul communicates with us through our emotions, through our body language.
Mhm.
And when we're able to interpret that, we can more align with our inner truth, our power, our
Yeah.
love and joy, and live authentically, powerfully, because that's our right.
Mhm. I love this. Okay, so you talked about anger, sadness, numbness, fear, shame, guilt, and jealousy. And so this is like the awareness piece, right? And
Yeah.
so what's where do we go from here?
Yeah. So awareness, in the first step, I've called it recognize. So just recognizing, okay, it can be as simple as I'm feeling emotionally toxic. I don't even know what I'm feeling. It can be just as simple as that. Or I'm having these thoughts, like uh these thoughts of like, oh, why is she doing that to me? Or what does she think of me? Or what does he think of me? Or like these thoughts, and then going back to, okay, I must be feeling this way. What does it really mean? So the first step is recognition. And then just instead of trying to find out what it really means, you just set that intention. Okay, what does this mean? I'm open to receive it. So then that's acceptance. Like, okay, this is happening right now. I accept it. I accept everything that I'm feeling and thinking, and I am not making it wrong. Just sitting with that. Then the third step is surrendering, relaxing the body, the toes, making yourself comfortable, and just feeling everything you feel in your body. No judgment. There's no right or good. There's no wrong or bad about this. There's no judgment. Or if there is judgment, I accept it. Okay, it is what it is. So for many emotions, like shame, guilt, fear, the process looks like quiet. You're just surrendering, letting it flow through, observing what's happening. The anger and sadness, the surrendering process, is most likely going to show up as crying or yelling or screaming into a pillow or punching something. That's surrendering to the emotion. And it's very important to create a safe space, because when we don't feel safe, we're not gonna let our emotions come up. So maybe when there's no one in the house, or even just going to the car, like I've gone to my car and cried or screamed because I know I'm safe. It's just me. If I'm driving, there are usually strangers around me. They're not going to remember me. Or maybe inspired by my expressions. So it's important to find a safe space. And Remember, anger, sadness are fully expressed physically. That's what surrendering is. Letting it be expressed by you without inhibiting it or resisting it or judging it to be right or wrong. And all the other emotions are just acknowledging it, which is recognizing, accepting, and then surrendering is it's a quiet process. Letting it happen, letting it move through you without engaging in it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, it's definitely something that will take practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I think so often, we're trying to move away from the discomfort. And
Mm-hmm.
so we suppress, or maybe we like overly, like put it onto others.
Yeah. And that is not the same thing as expression. Expression is
Right.
like letting emotion be expressed through our body, and we're not directing it to anyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
that,
think that's the difference, because I think some, people, they might just say like, I just want to express myself, and they are really, like you said, they're like putting it onto others instead of actually communicating
mm-hmm.
from a place of, wanting to be understood
Yeah. Yeah.
versus just wanting to be right.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. And the wanting to be right, it's this judgment piece, this fear, need for safety.
Hmm.
Oh, if I'm not right, then I'm going to be ostracized,
Yeah.
rejected.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first step is recognizing, which is awareness. Okay, I'm feeling this way. Something is not feeling right. It's feeling uncomfortable, like you said, discomfort. And these steps move. They're very fast. The progression is very fast from one to another. And then the second step is okay. This is what I'm feeling. Not trying to make it right or wrong. And then the third step is surrendering. All right, I'm just gonna let these emotions flow on their own and let the anger and sadness be expressed in whatever ways my body wants to express it. Yeah. And part of what I do with my patients is creating this safe space, creating this compassionate space for for them to be able to go deeper, feel their emotions, and I'm there to energetically validate what they're feeling. There's no judgment. It's coming up and we're decoding it together. I am guiding them to connect to their soul through their emotions and see what comes up for them. And then whatever message that comes up, I write it down for them and I have them affirm it every single day. So I say it 100 times per day for 90 days to really reprogram the subconscious part with this new belief system. And then unwire the old belief that we may have been carrying, that this person may have been carrying. So that's the healing, a lot of the healing process that happens during the mind body medicine with me. And I'm just realizing that it's not just mind body that I'm doing. There's this aspect of healing at the soul level. Because I've had some patients point that out to me, and I was like, oh, I didn't even think that. Because I don't know what soul is.
Mhm.
It's just this understanding, right? This knowing. Like, I don't know how to define it. But I've had patients say, oh, yeah, I'm getting this healing at the soul level, at the spiritual level. And I'm like, wow, so we're even going deeper than the mind and emotions.
Mhm.
But emotions connect us to our soul.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. Is there anything else when it comes to decoding your emotions that you would like to be sure people have an understanding of?
Yeah, so there is a book that I want to recommend to read. It's called Letting Go by David Hawkins.
Mm.
Letting Go by David Hawkins. He's he's really put each emotions on a map of frequency, what they mean, and what to do to heal through them, which is really receiving it all, that acceptance piece, receiving and then surrendering to it, uh, feeling the discomfort fully, and the healing, the joy, the love is going to follow through 100% all the time. The discomfort feeling may last for a month, may last for a day, may last for a whole year. Like, we don't know, but it's important to stay with it for as long as what we need to.
I love
Yeah,
that.
for that book. I
And
have other free resources for um, intuitive empathic people on my website, sunshineholistic.health.com. So everyone, you can go ahead, visit my website and check them out. I really put a lot of intention and authenticity into putting this together, and it's been well tested by me. Like, I feel amazing when I do the meditations, the practices to step into our empowered empathic self. And also, I've put together a list of 10 of my favorite books, and letting go is in there. So you
perfect.
can even just get started on reading the books to start experiencing your well-being.
And you'll be emailing out the handout, right? The
Yeah.
3-step process on decoding our emotions. So everyone will get a copy of that after the summit. So be sure to check your inboxes from Dr. Nikita for that. And then I just really quickly wanted you to, you may have already gone over this, but you mentioned like we are not our emotions, right? Can you just explain a little bit about what that means, because so often we hear, you know, people almost identifying with the emotion, for instance, like I am sad versus I am feeling sad or I
Mhm.
am experiencing sadness. Can you kind of explain like maybe the difference?
Yeah. So I've played with this where whenever I say, okay, I feel sad, I feel a little more disconnected with my emotion
Hmm.
versus when I say I am sad and then I say, okay, I feel sad. So I use both actually. Whenever I want to connect even deeper to what I'm feeling, I will use I am. And then once I am connected, I will step back into an observer mode and say, okay, this is what I'm feeling. And I just, after years of training, I just know it's like this water that's wanting to move, it's not me. I have a meditation that's called Who Am I, which is constantly asking ourselves, who am I? Who am I? Like, who am I? Who's the person who's asking, who am I? And that will help us really, it's helped me connect with my inner truth, that which I really am, away from all the facade that I have built over the years, away from my roles that I'm playing right now, away from the emotions that I'm feeling. Like, emotions are beautiful, they're communication. And but we're not that. Like, that's not who we are. We're not an angry person. We're a person who experiences anger. So, yes, we're not our emotions, but with the words, like, it really depends on the intention, what the person means when they say, oh, I am angry. Are they actually experiencing, are they actually believing that that's who they really are? Or are they letting their emotion be expressed, like speaking from that emotional place, knowing that they're expressing that emotion? So that's the distinction I have come across from my experience and from working with patients as well.
That's a good distinction because at first anger came to mind, but Also jealousy, right? Because often you'll hear people like, oh, I'm just a jealous person.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. Yeah. And the decoding part, recognizing part is like, that's what will help us understand that we are not, that's not our identity,
Right.
right? And that there's a deeper meaning to it that we can tap into and grow into our powerful self. Like we can let that go. It doesn't have to be our identity anymore when we decode it.
Hmm. Yes, love that. Okay, great. And then the last thing was, what does it mean to be authentic?
This authentic is listening to the subtle communications, the impulses in the body. Like if I am feeling heavy, then okay, I'm gonna stretch. Like I don't care if I'm in a big meeting, like authentic means you're not placing your power in what other people thinks.
Hmm.
You're actually believing and in connection with your inner truth so much that you're choosing yourself before what other people may judge you as. Like this deep breath, it makes me feel good. It's a very transmuting breath. If emotions come up, if I'm feeling a little bit discomfort or heaviness comes up, then like I'm gonna do that, and that's authentic to me. And there was a time when I was like, oh, I want to be authentic. Like
Mhm.
authentic is unique. You see, authentic people are not afraid of being judged by what others will think. And to me, authenticity is expressing my inner truth freely
Mhm.
and openly. Yeah.
Love that. Okay. Anything else that you want to speak to on the decoding our emotions?
Yeah, I think this is great. This is great information. I hope there was at least one thing that everyone got out of this and that it benefits you going forward and becoming your more authentic self, shining bright and being the light that you're meant to be here in this world and shining bright to other people's lives. Like I wish that for you, for everyone who's listening.
No, love that. And where can people find you to connect with you?
Yeah. So again, you can easily find me on my website, sunshineholistichealth.com. I also have an Instagram that I'm pretty active on. It's called dr.MindBodynature. And it's all connected, all the social media, there on the website, everything's connected. So you'll be able to find me easily. And also to stay in touch with me, I do send out emails of like updates of my healing journey. Like I'm going to Peru, but by the time this gets released, I'll be back. So I've been communicating that with my patients and everyone in my email list about the trip and the preparation. And I'll be sending pictures as well. So
Yeah.
all the cool stuff that I'm doing, I would love to share with you through email and also send you health tips to keep you motivated through the email too. So um, I would love to stay connected with you in that sense too. And then website, I have Tap Into Your Wellbeing plan that I've created. I love just primarily focus on healing at the soul level and then using herbs, nutrients, diet, lifestyle to support that piece. Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. Thank you so much, Dr. Nikita. And thank you for taking time to teach us all about how to decode our emotions and better show up as our authentic self. So thank you so much. This has been
You're
great.
welcome. And I love you, and I love all of you listening. Just sending you a lot of love and joy.
Love you
Wishing
too.
you so much happiness. Hug.
Yes, virtual hug. Oh, thank you so much. All right, thank you all. We'll see you in the next talk.